Section 5, the mystery. Babylon the Great, mother of harlots. Part 11a, Mystery Babylon. Watch for signs of paganism in Rome and Washington, D.C. This is a picture of the Vatican in Rome, Italy, in Europe, and of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., in the USA. D.C. stands for District of Columbia. We will start by giving you some explanation of the signs of paganism that we see in Rome. Did you know that the word Vatican literally means divining serpent and is derived from vatis, for vati here, meaning diviner, and can, meaning serpent. Vatican City and St. Peter's Basilica were built on the ancient pagan site called in Latin Vaticanus Mons or Vaticanus Collis, which means hill or mountain of prophecy. And we give you here the link for your perusal. Where did the Vatican get its name? We encourage you actually to visit that link to find more information. Vatican also referred to a foretelling, soothsaying, prophesying, vaticinary, to foretell. Again, we'll give you here the link for your perusal. Looking now at Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., USA. Again, notice that it is not capital, like many people may have thought, but it's Capitol with the O. And we read here, while serving in 1793 as President George Washington's Secretary of State, Thomas Jefferson named Capitol Hill, invoking the famous Temple of Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, on the Capitoline Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome, which is known to this day by this name. Please make sure to visit this link for further information. The Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus, also known as the Temple of Jupiter Capitolinus, was the most important temple in ancient Rome, located on the Capitoline Hill. It was consecrated to Jupiter, which was one of their main god at the time of the Roman, which they worshiped, and it was dedicated to the founding year of the Republic of Rome, 509 BC, some say 507 BC. We thought all along that this meant simply capital, and Vatican, hiding the divining serpent. These are only a few of the signs of paganism that we can find in Rome and Washington, D.C. Watch for more. Continuing in Part 11b, Mystery Babylon, Signs of Paganism in Rome and Washington, D.C. The Vatican, the obelisk, the Pantheon, the obelisk, and Capitol Hill, the obelisk. As we look at the definition of obelix, the obelix represented the living deity, the vitality and immortality of the pharaoh, and the concept of duality and balance. No matter who or what else they commemorated, they were raised and carefully positioned so that the first and last light of day would touch their peaks to honor the sun god. Notice that Rome has more than 12 obelisks, and we give you the link for your perusal. Again, looking at further definition of obelisk, the obelisk was a popular public and political monument, not only because of its association with antiquity and republicanism. For the Egyptians, the obelisk was a reverential monument commemorating the dead, representing their kings and honoring their gods. And notice that Rome has an obelisk in the front of the building, and the Pantheon, the old Pantheon, which still exists today but has been turned into a church, has also an obelisk. And the same with Washington, D.C., the Capitol Hill has an obelisk as well. And they are all made of the same manner, the same look, and we can see that its symbolism is very evident as far as representing, again, signs of paganism. Mystery Babylon. Another sign of symbolism is the dome. The dome of Rome, the Vatican, the dome of the Pantheon, and the dome as well here with almost like a double crown, we could say, of the Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. The dome, actually, we're told that the plan for the dome of St. Peter in 1506 follows that of the Pantheon very closely. The Pantheon is in Rome, and when in 1506 they were gathering money by selling indulgence to build St. Peter of Rome, they have definitely taken a lot of the design of the Pantheon, which is right here, and we see that there is a repetition of the dome there as well. As we continue with the dome now, the St. Peter's Basilica inspired the dome of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. So, the dome of the Vatican takes its inspiration from a Roman pagan building called the Pantheon, which has existed for centuries before St. Peter was built in 1506. And now in Washington, D.C., the copy of the dome, again, we find comes from both the Pantheon and the Vatican. Now, the Pantheon, the name Pantheon comes from the Greek words pan and theon, which means all and gods, respectively. The Pantheon was actually built on the site of another Pantheon that served as a temple for all the Roman gods. Another definition here that we are looking at, the triangle. Pyramids built in equilateral triangle stand as a reminder of the ancient Egyptian glorification of life after death. The pyramids were built as monuments to house the tombs of the pharaohs. That was seen as merely the beginning of a journey to the other world. And notice we give you the links for your perusal. Can you distinguish here the triangle of the Vatican, the triangle of the Pantheon, and the triangle of the Capitol Hill building in Washington, D.C. The previous picture of Capitol Hill was larger, so you may want to examine it, but it is a triangle. Again, all related to paganism, not only in Rome, but in Egypt. A lot of these are taken from Egypt. Even the obelisks are from Egypt. And the dome is supposedly to represent heaven. However, we know that it comes from a Roman pagan building, and it's repeated in the Vatican building and also in Capitol Hill, from all places. So you can see, and I'm sure if we were to continue this study, we just wanted to give you a few of the signs of paganism in Rome and Washington, D.C. So beside the name itself of the Vatican and beside the name itself of the Capitol Hill, you see that there are definitely more than one representation of paganism in these buildings. We will continue now to look at the Mystery Babylon. Part 11C, Mystery Babylon the Great, Signs of Paganism in Christianity in the United States of America. Revelation chapter 18, verses 7 to 11. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which had the 7 heads and 10 horns. Please notice that it is one name. Her name is Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and abomination of the earth. That's one name, according to the scripture. Referring back to the Two Republics, page 208. The mysteries were at once to accommodate the Christian worship as we saw, and its forms to that of the heathen, and almost at one step to heathenize Christianity. Of all the ceremonies of the heathen, the mysteries were the most sacred and most universally practiced. But whatever was the mystery that was celebrated, there was always in it, as an essential part of it, the elements of abomination that characterized sun worship everywhere, such as Baal-Peor, which is sodomy, and Moloch, which is the offering of sacrifices of children. Because the mysteries were simply forms of the widespread and multiform worship of the sun. Among the first of the perversions of the Christian worship was to give it to its forms the title and air of the mysteries. For says the record, among the Greeks and the people of the East, nothing was held more sacred than what were called the mysteries. These circumstances led the Christians, in order to impart dignity to their religion, to say that they also had similar mysteries, or certain holy rites concealed from the vulgar, and they not only applied the terms used in the pagan mysteries to Christian institution. And this is a fact now. The United States of America has followed in the steps of the apostate early Christians by adding the perversions of the title and air of pagan mysteries to their architecture, religious, political, and economic character in order to impart dignity to their country. In doing so, the USA has adapted false education, false worship of the sun, false calendar and festivals, and is ready to abandon the principle of republicanism and Protestantism and the unique constitution which guarantees separation of church and state, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion. We are about to witness the consequences of this grave error.